It's here. The Ray Merriman Forecast 2025 audiobook is now available for sale. And I can say with 100% confidence, knowing how astrology works, I would not want to enter 2025 without the information in this book. And that's how important I feel it is for you. Learn about the Aries vortex, the new era, AIRA, and Ray's incredible insights into 2025 and beyond. To order yours, go to the top of hightimelinebooks.com and it will link you directly to the book. Welcome to the Old Soul, New Soul Astrology Podcast. Hey, I want to ask you a question. When you think of the moon in astrology, in astrological terms, what do you think of? What comes to mind? Would emotions be one of the things? Sure. How about your soul? Yeah. How about your intuition is factored in there as well? How about mom? Good old mom, yes. Or maybe you are a mom. But do you think of the mind? And like, wait a minute, Thomas, you said moon, not Mercury. Well, Robert has some information on this and is going to walk us through it. Robert, why do we think of the moon and the mind in the same conversation?
Well, in truth, I think this all goes back to Vedic astrology, but also in truth, I learned this starting out in 1965 in Western books. So the association, for example, we have the word lunatic, which refers to insanity, mental illness, lunatic, from the word lunar or luna. So there has always been this association with the mind and astrology and the moon. The distinction is, I think, between the moon being the emotional mind and Mercury being the so-called rational mind of the intellect. But in Vedic astrology, the moon rules the mind, it rules emotions and the subconscious, it rules the mental state, it rules the mother, all those associations we're familiar with. But I guess that's where it really originated, is in Vedic astrology, and it's carried over. I can remember, I think even in books like Safariel's Manual of Astrology, I think even in the old A to Z Horoscope Maker and Delineator. These are all Western books from the 1920s, and many other books, Charles Carter and on and on and on. So to me, I was surprised to hear that people don't know that the moon, it co-rules, let's say that, co-rules the mind. So that's where it originates.
All right, I just grabbed a book off the shelf. I had to look at this. This is a book that I go to a lot and have for information, and it is a modern book, no doubt written in the last, 20, 30 years, something like that. And here are the descriptions, the keywords for the moon. First of all, the eternal feminine, emotional reactions, feeling, instincts, fluctuation, receptivity, reflection, habits, childhood, response, cycles, the mother, maternal instinct, the past, ancestral inheritance, the subconscious moods. Not one thing about the mind.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So how then do you apply that, and let's contrast that to the planet that we all do think of, the mind, Mercury?
Well, as I say, to me, the distinction is the moon goes back to, it rules the sign of Cancer, which is our roots, our ancestry, our heredity. So it's a very deep archetype in astrology, much deeper than Mercury. The moon is also the closest, we call it a planet, obviously we know it's not, but it's the closest satellite in astrology to the Earth. So the ancient Vedic association with it, I think, absolutely carried over into Mesopotamian astrology, and then into what we call Western astrology, and into the Middle Ages and on. But as you get more and more contemporary, like the book you just mentioned, that old association is lost, and the moon absolutely rules the subconscious. Well, the subconscious what? The subconscious mind. So it's there, but it's been ignored or lost, I think, to a lot of contemporary astrologers. So it pays I think all of us, to look at our lunar archetype and its sign and its house and its aspect in terms of the way we habitually, the moon rules habits, the way we habitually react to life. The moon is reactive. It reflects the sun's light, the light of consciousness. So it's a reactive archetype. And certainly we react emotionally, but when you think about it, emotions don't come from nowhere. Emotions are a water sign reaction to stimuli, either images or things that we see or things that we hear or actions and events that we participate in. Emotions are preceded by a stimulus. So in that sense, there is definitely a connection between the moon and our thoughts. I think today, contemporary astrologers totally focus on Mercury, which rules Gemini and Virgo, as the mind. But in fact, Mercury is more specific, I think, than that. It has to do with the ability to make connections between anything, thoughts, people, images, facts, connections, which is Gemini, and to analyze and criticize and compartmentalize and to use logic, all of which is Virgo. But underneath those, and I think accompanying them, the Mercury aspects are the lunar aspects. So I've never had any problem distinguishing the two. And I'm not much of a literalist when it comes to, oh, the moon doesn't rule the mind. Well, okay, if you want to believe that, that's all right. It is more than that to me. So this attempt to distinguish and separate Mercury from the moon as far as the mind goes, I think is a kind of artificial distinction that doesn't really need to be made.
Okay. Can you see my chart there?
Yes, I can.
All right. And so everybody else can see it. It's in the show notes of the audio podcast and the description on YouTube. If ever there was one position on this chart that to me, if I was agnostic about astrology and I just looked at the moon and read about it and looked at the interpretations, my moon would cause me to say, this astrology stuff is rubbish. Because I have a moon at 25 degrees Libra. Now, let's not interpret the moon in this chart. We've done that in other episodes. Everything else aside, the mom, the subconscious, all of that, ruling Cancer, the fourth house, the family, all of that, except that it is in the fourth house. Just focusing on what we're talking about today, the moon and the mind. Would you tell me why I should believe astrology from what you know about me?
Well, dangerous question.
Yeah, but you're good. Yeah. You are this good. Here we go, folks. Buckle in. No, the moon in Libra says that you are in this life striving for mental balance. Well, balance between what? Well, between feelings and the intellect. And your emotions are air sign. But everything else, your, what do you call it, Mars in tune, your Scorpio, Mars, and Neptune in Scorpio, along with your Sun, Moon, midpoint, I guess. But the Mars, Sun, and Neptune in Scorpio, the deepest emotional water sign that we have, totally irrational. Feelings don't have anything to do with reason. Nonetheless, they're very real and very true and very powerful. And that's you with all that fifth house stellium in Scorpio, very emotional and transformative sign. It's a sign of battle. So Scorpio people, and it's not necessarily evident on the surface, but they are in a battle in life, with life, in order to transform it. And they're very much unconsciously aware of, I am born a powerful man, in your case.
I'm a powerful man, so powerful that I have to be careful because I can destroy people and myself. I'm that powerful. The moon comes along in Libra and says, great. I've also got a strong air sign intellect. And my mission is to balance my incredible emotional power and depth. And this is the power of life and death with Scorpio. Balance all that with my intellect, my rational mind. And then you can look at your third house, which is the mind. Again, what do we see? Pluto in Virgo. And Pluto is, we all have it somewhere. To the degree that we are or can be obsessive compulsive, that's where Pluto is. So Pluto in the third house in Virgo is in a never-ending argument with everything. It's a wonderful position for a psychologist, for an astrologer, for somebody who is picking life apart to get to the essence of things, so that whatever you see, hear, and encounter goes through that third house with Pluto in Virgo. It makes you tremendously skeptical. I am too. I've got a lot of Virgo. And I like this because many people just accept what they're told willy-nilly without questioning it. You question everything. You see where I'm going with this? So the moon here, as far as your mind, is very much about balance, which you will ultimately find. And the older you get, the better balanced you are with the moon in a late degree of Libra.
Well,
is this making any sense so far?
Not only is it making sense, I hear everything you're saying, and I believe you, and I want to know more about this astrology stuff. So you've won me over, and I see that you have this horary course. I think I'll buy it so that I can learn more. How about that?
Well, that's all great to hear, and I'd much rather hear that than have you start arguing with me.
Well,
but you see, I also have a lot of Scorpio in me, and so I can identify with some of it.
I was laughing as you were saying all of that about you question everything, because there's a lineage of Thomas in my family on my dad's side, so they carried it forward through me, and the biblical character of Thomas was Doubting Thomas. Because
oh my gosh, that's right.
When Jesus reappeared to the disciples after his resurrection in the story, Thomas, the disciple, said, "I'm not going to believe that that's him until I put my hand in his hand to feel the scars from those nails." And so from that, Doubting Thomas. Everybody else was Jesus, Jesus. And Thomas is like, nope, that's something else. That's an alien.
There's some things I was so lucky and grateful to know Linda Goodman for a few years. And some of what she said, I never have forgotten. And one of them, she was quadruple Aries. So she liked to shorthand everything.
Now, wait a minute. Quadruple?
Yeah, Sun, Moon, Ascendant, and Mars.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So
get out of the way.
Yeah. But when it came to Scorpio, and I've never forgotten it, she was right to the point. Sex, death and rebirth, and religion. Boom.
Probably in that order for most.
I don't know if it was in that order, but she was right.
Yeah.
It's shorthand, and it's 3 words or 4, and seemingly superficial, but it's not. Those are the deepest things that we know in life: sex, death and rebirth, and religion. And that's you.
Well, that's true. That is true.
That's you.
Wow. That's all right. Well, you guys got a little glimpse of it there. Robert, thank you for that. That's perfect. Very well executed from your mind to ours. And hopefully that helps give you another layer of astrological interpretation that you can lay on to your existing practice. So when you think of the moon, fold in the mind and go where he did with that. That beautiful illustration. Thank you so much. And if you would like more, we have more. We have a 101 course over on funastrology.com to get you started if you do not know the vernacular of astrology and would like to learn. It's very simple. Take you right from no knowledge at all up to where you can basically read through a chart. And then we have the master's class, the horary course. Links to all of that are in the show notes or description on YouTube, and we would love to have you check out everything we have going on around here. You can find it there. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you on the next one. Old Soul, New Soul Astrology Podcast with Robert Glasscock.